everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Sophisticated Ignorance.
Ah, shit. Here we go again.
Hot damn hole, here we go again.
I was going to say that,
say
but then I didn't want it.
You had to do it.
But I didn't want it to be so obvious. So.
No, you had to do it. It's the only way. So, yeah.
I don't know what just happened, but okay, it's fine.
Oh, man.
Do you even introduce yourself?
Not yet.
Okay, my bad.
I'm Nieema.
Are you?
I'm Steven.
I'm Vixon J.
Here we go. Everyone's here.
Everyone's accounted for.
Yes.
Was everybody here last time? Yeah, everybody was here last time.
Yeah, last time we did this, we were all here.
Like, we literally don't record if all three of us isn't available.
I mean, because we the magic.
You know, okay. Yeah.
Big facts.
Yeah, it's cute. I appreciate you guys.
But yeah, what's going on? Let's get into the word, shall we?
Yeah.
The word.
The word. So it's been almost a week and a half.
Yes.
Probably 2 weeks, if that long. So my word to describe the full on 2 weeks is breakthrough.
Oh.
I know.
Okay.
I actually thought about that before I came here.
Talk about a queen.
So I made a breakthrough in my relationship with my partner. And it was really nice. It took us a while to get there.
Whoa.
Did you just use the R word?
She's using,
Shut the fuck up.
She said the R word and
A week
P
and a
word.
half ago, that nigga was about to get cut off.
Well.
Now we in a whole-blown relationship.
No, not like boyfriend. But like, what do you call
Choose
it?
your words wisely.
Because you said relationship and you said partner. That's big words coming from you. So
it is very big.
Right. So you can imagine
so our reactions are valid.
It's valid.
Word. So
because I used the wrong word.
So
okay.
Do you want to rephrase or do you want to?
So that nigga.
Right.
I won't say it. Well, he is my friend. We're definitely really good friends.
The person you're talking to.
The term that I like to use is dynamic.
Let's get into that briefly.
What?
Because I feel like we use a lot of words to water down what situations really are. I feel like I'm grown. I'm not talking to anyone.
All right.
If I'm talking to you, that means you're strictly in my phone. I'm never seeing you. We're not going out.
Fair.
So we're dating.
All right. Your date.
Yeah. Okay. The person I'm dating.
Correct.
We made a breakthrough in our thing.
Dating here. Relationship.
Right.
Partner. Yeah, all the way over here.
Okay.
Take it to the top. Let's
Gotcha.
simmer it down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're dynamic with your mans.
Right. That's what would you even call the person then? Wouldn't it be your partner?
Homeboy.
Oh boy!
You see, this is
all right.
Actually,
Yes.
me and him, and my friend, we had a whole conversation about this. Like different words and terminologies we use for people might not be the same that we would use.
You just say the guy I'm dating right now.
Right, but people are afraid of titles anyway. So
yeah,
you gotta,
but it don't even mean. Yeah, people are afraid of titles.
Afraid and they're very sensitive about it.
Yeah, for no reason.
Society caused that because people put too much stock into titles themselves.
Very much so.
Because then they kind of gauge how much level of respect they have for you based on the title that you give them.
Which is ridiculous. Like,
all right.
So
let's call it that thing with that thing.
That's so dumb. It's like you have to dance around certain words to not people make
your thing with that.
Because it's like red flags to
which
people.
is so dumb. Which is so dumb.
Right.
Nobody's an adult.
All right. We'll carry on. For the sake of the argument,
we made a breakthrough in our dating life situation.
All right. When you put question marks on shit, now it's
because I'm trying to make sure I'm explaining it correctly for people to understand.
Just say it, and you'll explain it later if you want to.
A breakthrough in
the
dynamic of our, I guess relationship.
See?
Is
okay, relationship is the only word.
It is a form of a relationship. So yes.
Yeah, that's why I use that word. And we're all adults. I mean, if you're over here cringing because someone said anything, like you have bigger fucking fish to fry.
You really got to work on your segues because it was literally like a week and a half. He was pissing you off to start off. So the breakthrough in my relationship.
Sorry.
We clearly missed a couple episodes of this.
We can have. You know what? Communication is key.
As always.
And we all communicate differently. So we all have to figure out a way to communicate with someone so they can understand us and vice versa. Mm-hmm. So that's why I said we made a breakthrough because we were able to communicate effectively to where both of us understood what the other person was saying.
That's nice.
Moral of the story is I was pretty much saying something the whole time and then he finally understood it in his way. So we came together like light bulb.
Oh, he gave you a wow, that's crazy. I get it now.
He gave me a
No, I'm trying to think.
Makes sense.
He actually sat down and expressed his thoughts and his feelings in a way that he was comfortable with.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I totally understand what you were saying. However, this is what I've been saying the whole time. But I understood why you needed a little bit more time to digest it
Gotcha.
and, sit on it to come back.
Question. Was there a way that you phrased what you were saying for him to finally comprehend? Or was there action that
What I
was
did
combined
was,
with what you said?
I think it was, I got to the
slowly?
point to where I was just like, okay, I don't care no more. Like, I'm not going to keep repeating myself.
So you was just straightforward.
Yeah, I feel like I've always been straightforward, but then again,
We've had these conversations. Well, not on air, but we've had these conversations.
Maybe she has to talk slow.
maybe I don't know. Maybe that was it. Cause I
No,
feel
it's
like,
not talking slow. It's
No,
like
I'm doing
you
it.
want to say things in a manner that doesn't necessarily offend somebody
I
or
get-
comes off a certain facet.
right,
Because, the dynamics of being a black woman in New York City.
right.
So
Just
she'll
like
say
just now
something.
when I said something, everybody's like relationship. It's like, whoa, wait, I
No,
didn't mean it that
but
way.
we only reacted that way because it was like, once again, the last time we heard
Yeah,
about
yeah,
your
that was the only
man's,
reason why.
it was like, okay, it was a little shaky,
Yeah, like, in
a little rocky. Yeah.
history will prove from that episode, next week's episode is like, yeah, I had to cut that motherfucker
Word.
off for
Right.
you to
We
go
see-
from there.
We see
to,
love in hip hop. We know the vibes.
Right.
yeah,
Like,
so
come
for
on.
you to go to there to relationship, and that was like the first word.
Right.
It
When you
was
said
like,
partner, there was like, whoa, whoa.
Double
Yeah.
fucking slap.
Right, double whammy. All right, but that's what's up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I just needed.
Clarification.
I was fine with it. I thought I explained myself plenty of times, many different ways for him to understand. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But I feel like as humans, like I said, we communicate differently. Everyone's love language is different, so you just have to figure out each other's love language so you know how to communicate with them like
Mhm.
that. And I feel like we had someone else intervene and try to be like, I hear both of y'all sides, but this
mediator.
is what y'all are both trying to say. And it
Mhm.
still took him like a day or two, and he was like, you know what, actually, this is it. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I've been saying the whole time. You good?
All right.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Everyone has
so
different paces of understanding.
that's
all.
pretty much what I have my moments where I'm like, let me sit on this, let me think about it, and I'll come back to you once I figure it out.
Facts.
And I guess that's what he probably needed to do.
Well, I'm happy that you guys had the breakthrough.
Yeah.
That sounds
We
cool.
still
Yeah,
outside
that's
though.
what's up.
So everything's stable.
Cause yeah, I'll be like giving you lectures on like what to say, and then I don't know what they be thinking on their end. Like shit just be confused.
Some people learn on their own time.
And some
Okay.
people are used to what they're used to, and dealing with someone that's the complete opposite of what you're dealing with, it can be a little hard,
Challenging.
challenging.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It's just a little bit more challenging.
Okay. All right. Look at growth.
That's it. Growth.
Look at us.
I have a story for y'all off here though.
I bet you do.
Can't.
Always a story.
Well, my client said that. She said, keep up with the stories, not.
Keep up with the stories.
Yeah, sacrifice your life for the content.
Right,
Oh
right.
my gosh.
Your first just let the tea, that's all.
They love it.
They love it.
The tea spills over. Tea.
All right.
They love it.
Carry on. Who's next?
Whose word is up next?
Steven, you could go.
My word is duality. Last week, the beginning of last week was super trash.
I mean, it was January, so.
Yeah, the beginning of last week was super trash. Because obviously with the whole Kobe and Gianna and the rest of those family situations.
That
Because
was,
definitely came out of left field.
most of us, yeah.
It was almost, for me, it was the same feeling I had when Nipsey
Yeah,
was
yeah,
killed.
yeah.
Because it was just like that emptiness in your stomach.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
weird.
Like it didn't feel right.
It
Like,
felt heavy. Yeah, it didn't
Yeah.
feel right. Even
Yeah.
now, I still be like, wait, what?
this shit is crazy. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't. It just, I've been not even trying to make sense of it. It's just been,
It's like trying to
doesn't make,
process it. Like, what?
yeah, like it don't make sense.
right, it's
Like,
extremely important. Yeah.
yeah, that was the beginning of the week, and that was just tough. Like, I didn't watch basketball the whole entire week up until yesterday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, that, I was avoiding social media for the most part because obviously people was making their posts and things of that nature. And,
Baby.
yeah, it was just a lot to deal with because even though I was never like a Kobe fanatic or Kobe stan, it's like you respect somebody who,
Right.
put everything into their craft. Like,
Mm-hmm.
People, we come across a lot of people in your lifetime, and there's some people that, bullshit their way. Some people are fortunate enough to have certain things, and then there's like a select few of people that like really maximize their potential.
Mm-hmm.
Like, from every facet, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, everything. And he was an example of that, of like maximizing his potential and his talent. And even outside of basketball, it was like whatever he was focused on,
He put us all into
he
it.
put all of it into it. Whether it was, you know, the documentary that he won the Oscar for, whether it was being a father and a husband and things of that nature. So it was tough dealing with that. And then on the other hand, I got the chance to chop it up with Joe Budden. I got a chance to chop it up with Joe. That was cool. We exchanged info, so hopefully there's some other things that transpire from there. But yeah, it was just like duality. It's like how shitty of a week can start, and then things could just flip. Yeah, just flip. And even if that didn't transpire, the week itself was just still getting better from an emotional standpoint. So
same. I can say the same.
That's what's up.
I think with Kobe's passing, it made people a little bit more open about their feelings and realize things. So, excuse my stomach. It made people a lot more vulnerable at that time. Conversations were had. I was seeing. It was.
Yeah, because it was necessary. Because I remember, and I mentioned this on my Instagram. There was a dude that was on ESPN, Jason Williams, and I only saw a sound clip, a little small clip, because I was just avoiding shit in general. But he was like in tears, and he was like, "Yo, whatever issues that you have with people, just let that shit go.
Yeah.
It's pointless because you really." It's cliche and everybody says it, but tomorrow is not promised. So it's like I could imagine, you know, I have some sort of issue with somebody, and God forbid they're gone the next day. So it's like, and then more times than not, the times that you have issue with somebody, it's never anything serious. It's always some petty bullshit. So it's like, it just made people just put things in perspective, because it's like nobody wakes up that morning and it's like, oh, this possibly is the last day I'm gonna live. It's like you just go through your routine and things. Like Kobe's been taking helicopters across LA for God knows 20 plus years. He was literally in church before he got on the helicopter. So it's like, yeah, this shit was just really unfortunate, really sad. You just look at things from the perspective of trying to maximize your day, maximize the time that you have here, maximize, you know, the talents that you have, and just, you know, appreciate everything and just be grateful.
Do the best with what you can with what you have.
Pretty much.
Your word, B?
Wow. I'll say resilience. You know, yeah, with all the events that happened throughout the past week and even just the past month, like for me, like January seemed like trash. Just because world event wise, there was just a lot going on. It was just like, damn, son. Like last month felt like a whole year.
Because it was 5 weeks.
Yeah, and on top of that, it was just like a lot of shit happening, you know, like news wise. So it just felt like a lot going down. And then, you know, between that and then like personal family stuff happening too, it just felt like the train,
family stuff too.
The train just kept. Like, even with the bumps, the train just had to keep moving.
Keep going,
just like,
yeah.
damn, bro. But yeah, on my end, personally, like, everything's okay. Balance, everything's cool. Like, I just feel like I'm just rolling with the punches. Nothing is like, oh, shit. Like, oh, it's popping. It's just work, chill, have fun when I can. You know what I'm saying? Trying some different stuff. Switch it up. I mean, so yeah. That's about it. Nothing to, you know,
like that
about.
You just turned over like it was my turn.
Really nothing to backflip about. Yeah, no, you just take it one day at a time, which, even though I don't like that phrase, but it's real.
Literally what you gotta do.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, take it one day at a time.
Because I'm sure the people that had a chance to speak to him said he had a whole bunch of stuff that he was working on. And, you know, maybe his camp will eventually work on that stuff. Maybe he won't. You never know. So, yeah, you literally just gotta take it one day at a time.
But shall we proceed?
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Come on now.
Y'all birds. Anyways. But yes, today's topic. I've been interacting with children a lot more lately. In the sense of just like, you know, I have a lot of friends with like babies and stuff like that, and children in general. And I recently just kind of started thinking about just the concept of like kids growing up in today's environment, especially with everything that they see out there on the news and just the access to everything, and it kind of just brought back the thought of like age appropriation. So that's kind of like the first question. Like, I mean, we are obviously of an older age, so I don't know how much y'all interact with kids like on a daily, whether personal lives or come across kids, but I mean, in the sense of what's age appropriate, like what do you think that means now, considering we got all types of shit like apps and TikTok and technology and just so much stimulus coming at like the younger kids that you might either see or be around or come across. Like, what is age appropriate these days, if anything?
I think that's hard to define because as somebody that is a parent, you kind of are battling too many factors. You're battling social media, you're battling society, you're battling regular media forms, whether it's TV, movies, different things of that nature. And then you're just battling reality. Like, for as much as you want to like protect your child, at the same time they're going to get exposed to things that they may not even comprehend. Like, funny enough, my coworker was talking about a situation the other week of like he was at a library with him, his wife, and their 2 daughters, and basically the librarian was like just being racist. It was like, having these 2 kids clean up while there was a whole bunch of white kids that were still playing, so there was no point for them to clean up in the first place. But the librarian was specifically just targeting these 2 Hispanic girls. And then, he had the conversation with the librarian and things of that nature, and then he had to explain to his daughter what was transpiring. I don't recall what age they are, but, maybe 8, 9. At 8, 9 years old, you got to explain to somebody what discrimination or racism is at that early age. So for maybe in our, based on what kind of parents you have, our parents probably wouldn't have that talk with us because they would just feel like, look, that's a little bit too early to kind of be looking at people based off of race and society and how behavior happens between different people. But it's tough to have a legit definition because there's just so many factors involved. So it's like something that could be appropriate for somebody at 10, you now going to tell somebody that's 5 or 6 because of the kind of world that we live in.
Yeah, things are getting like kids are getting exposed to things quicker than we were back in the day because of access and information. Like, information is just all around you. You can't avoid it. You know what I'm saying? So, especially like y'all probably heard about what was happening on YouTube, where there's like specific content that are targeted to kids, but that has adult content in it, and YouTube had to pretty much like regulate different channels. Oh yeah,
I think I got an email for that. Like, as if you are somebody that creates content, you have to specifically identify what kind of content that you make, because shit was just getting routed to anybody regardless of age.
Yeah, not for real. And like kids were being exposed to some like wild, crazy shit or some weird, like, I don't know. It was just a lot of scandal when it came to YouTube and the kid content. So they had to kind of like regulate that and bring it back because kids were like watching some wild porn shit that was supposed to be targeted for children. But yeah, you know what I'm saying?
All these like animated movies and TV shows that they have, like Sausage Party. You would think it's about fucking kids. Definitely not. Fucking Big Mouth on Netflix. That shit makes me cringe a little bit. I'm like,
you're a whole adult.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, now y'all
taking it too far.
Yeah. So I think it depends on pretty much what Steven said, the parent. Like, parents have to try their best to educate their children and slowly expose them to things. But once they go outside and they're in school around their friends, no telling what they're going to see or hear or even get caught up in. Because I know as a kid, like, I would do stupid shit when I'm not home, but nothing to the extreme that kids are doing now. Like, kids are like literally 11, 12 years old having sex, like doing drugs. Like, it's crazy. Like, they're having thoughts of suicide because they're stressed. Like, it's the world we live in is just way different. We had a sense of community. Like, I know I can go outside and my mom might not be outside, but it's like 6, 7 people out there who's watching me just because they know who my mom is, and they're not gonna let nothing happen to me. nowadays kids, one, they don't go outside. If they are outside, what the fuck are they really doing?
Making noise. Like they're mad loud for no reason.
Yeah,
Like,
nothing. They're caught up on nonsense.
Yeah, so everything is just different, like age appropriate. I look at these young girls on Instagram. They're fucking 20 years old and just looking grown as hell. And their parents was okay with that.
Not even 20. They be in high school with a
and
Birkin.
That's another
Bodies
thing
done.
altogether. Like, I mean, it, and actually, I got into a conversation with a homegirl about that, in the sense of like fashion and young women, in the sense of like, based on what they wear, should they be more aware of like how older men like view them, and should they have to regulate how they look in order for, you know what I'm saying? It's like, is it the guy's fault for being a creep, or is it the young girl's fault for like looking a certain
I feel like
way?
Nowadays, these young girls know exactly what they do when they get dressed. They want to be sexy. I want you to look at me. I want you to want me. I want to be grown.
But who are they trying to target? Who are they targeting?
I won't blame them for that.
I'm not
necessarily blame
I'm not
them.
gonna blame any young girl for dressing however they want.
Yeah, because I
sense.
think
But
society.
as a woman, I know I'm saying it because I know exactly what it is.
But
It doesn't make it right for a man to look at her that way because she's young. But when you get dressed, you know what you're wearing is a little bit too mature for your age. That's one. So you're gonna put it on. You're gonna pose a certain way. You're gonna post it. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, if you're posing in,
You know
if
what
you're
I'm
talking about
saying?
posing in pictures in a certain facet, that's different. I'm thinking about like fashion in general has just changed dramatically, where it's like
Right.
the athleisure fit to walk around in that's gonna hug your figure. That's the norm now. So it's like I don't necessarily blame them because that's the culture. Whatever is popular at culture that time, that's what.
But that's not the only thing I'm saying though. That's not the only thing you can wear.
Well,
I
of
can wear
course
that
not.
too, but I have on a pair of jeans and sneakers right now.
Well, remember back in the
You
day,
know what I'm
like,
saying? I don't always have to walk around with a fucking Calvin Klein top and some biker shorts all the time. But I know when I put that on, I'm gonna get certain kind of attention. I know how my body is shaped. These girls know how their body is shaped. That's why they wear certain things to hug their body like that.
Right.
I'm not saying they're looking for that kind of attention because that'll go to a different place. But women are well aware of what they're putting on, and young girls know what they're putting on and how they want it to fit and how they want to look because they want to look like these older women. And society has made it okay for you to be 18, 19 years old getting your ass done and your titties done. Look at Kylie and them. It's okay to do that.
Well, mind you, 18 and 19 is quote unquote legal or appropriate.
Legal, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're mature enough.
Well, and that's the bullshit about it, because it's like because look, when I turned 18, I was like, oh shit, 18, I'm an adult. You're not really an adult.
No, you still can't do mad stuff.
You know what I'm saying? This is mad shit you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like,
Not even from a legal standpoint. Just look at you from mentally, like.
Yeah.
No, but no one's thinking mental when you're 8. No one's thinking like, oh, I'm 18. My mental.
No, but I'm saying that well, you know, society or the law say you are an adult based off of this specific age, and they're taking into account that you're mentally mature enough to make certain decisions, but you're not. Even if, regardless, what's it, 21 to start drinking?
Mm-hmm.
You're still not mature enough.
Oh, I was drinking way before 21.
Exactly. So, but
mind you, I wasn't wilding out on some bottle of Henny to the face. It was just like, I am drinking with my cousins or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was in a controlled environment when I was drinking, but not like heavily. It was like, all right, sip a beer here, wine cooler there. Like, I wasn't going nuts. Mm-hmm. But you see some kids that are obviously not of drinking age. They got bottles. They got more bottles than I.
That's
you know what I'm saying? Like,
now.
the fuck?
That's the culture, yeah.
That's the culture now, to get lit.
Right. So, as I said, well, age pretty much gets thrown out the window at that point.
Yeah. Because it's a cultural thing. Because whatever is popular on social media or by rappers or by entertainment, that's what people are going to do. Same way we was doing shit back then. It's just now reached the point where it's way more detrimental to the younger audience. Back then, everybody wanted to be tough. Everybody was trying to look like they moved some weight.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody was really moving weight. But you would dress and maneuver in that facet as if you were a dealer. But now these kids out here is literally doing the shit that is, you know, pushed by society.
Right. Well, speaking of, like, kind of going back to what kids were doing back then, like, what could you think from, at least from what you saw or, like, your actions, like, what would you consider was like an adult thing that you were doing like when you were younger? You know what I mean?
Nothing.
Yeah, right.
Nothing. Because
Your
my
ass
parents. Yeah,
But
my
it
parents.
doesn't be extreme like sex or drugs or whatever, but like something like, oh,
Nothing.
I think I'm wrong.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Oh.
Literally.
My
nothing.
parents was way too strict for me to. Yo, my mom used to not even heckle me. She would get on me about coming home late from basketball practice.
1,000%. Definitely had a
From basketball practice, so she knew where I was at.
But they don't care. My mom
But they didn't care.
Thing.
Oh, I had to make up dumb excuses just to hang out late.
My mama knew
Mad
where I
lies.
was. She had my friend's number, knew the address and everything.
I had to play basketball
Still
to hang out late.
wildin'. Still wildin'.
And see, I was in a fucked up situation because my elementary school was a block away from my parents' house.
Yikes.
So if I was at home in 5 minutes, because it's literally a block,
Then
it was like, yo, where were you at? And then
Right.
my junior high school, because you and I went to the same junior high school,
Yeah.
junior high school was like a 10-minute bus ride.
Word.
So that's it. High school was like the first time I could kind of like have extra time.
Yeah,
but even then,
stretch it
it
out.
was like, yo, it's been over an hour since you've been home. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was no form of adulthood, like nothing.
No, I was
I
like,
didn't have freedom until, let's see, I'm about to be 33
Freedom.
now.
Bruh. I was still 21 years old. Like, where you at?
Even
Why y'all
now,
so
my
late?
mom would call me
no, well,
and
that's
be
pretty
like,
nice, though.
like she'll call me, like, yo, she'll be like, when you stopping by, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be busy this weekend, I can't come by. It's like, oh, busy, huh? I'm like, busy doing what? Stuff. Like,
And
why do I have to tell you?
Word.
Stuff and things.
I do not live in your house. You don't pay a single bill here. Why are you check?
Yeah.
Like,
Why
yo.
are you checking on my moves? Why are you clocking me right now, B?
Yeah, there's no. I'm not an adult.
What are you doing?
I'm not an
What are
adult.
you doing to keep busy? Let's
Mind
put
my
the mirror on you.
And then if you give them a little bit of information, they want the whole
Story.
synopsis.
That's why I be like
Backstory.
nothing.
Yeah, that's why I don't tell them
Nothing.
anything.
I have to know.
Nothing.
Yeah, that's the point that I've reached. My mom be like, oh, what you doing? Working. Oh, you working? You making big money, aren't
I'm
you?
mad boring.
Working.
Paying bills.
Or a few times we're like, oh yeah, or she'll like call me randomly. I'm like, yeah, I'm about to head out to the city. Oh, you go to the city now? Yeah, it's
I
been
go to the
it's
city
been
now.
there for the last 33 years of my life.
That shit make it seem like it's a whole different country. Like,
Yo, there's no escape, no escape.
They can't help it. Yeah, I ain't do nothing. Literally.
Yeah, I don't tell them
Nothing.
nothing about my personal life. I can't, because
No,
it
I
turns
mean-
into a story. It turns into a speech about something.
When we talk about dating and men, I'll shut that shit down real quick. I don't know. I don't care. I don't like him like that. He cool. Literally, that's it. That's it.
yeah, my sister would be trying to get mad nosy. My sister's nosy in general, but she trying to get mad nosy. Like, no, she's just a friend. We're cool.
That's it. We cool.
Yep.
She's smooth.
My mother still asks about people she met once 10 years ago.
Oh, it's probably really like.
Well, you don't bring nobody around, so of course you're gonna ask the last person she has in her
And
memory.
that's why. That's fucking why. As a fellow
Mind you,
Aquarian,
we've had
we don't
mad,
like
we have had
questions.
mad conversations. Why are you randomly bringing up this one person you met for 5 seconds 25 years ago?
As I said, that's the last person she remembers that you interacted with.
Nah,
Crazy.
it's quiet for all that.
Yes.
Well,
It's quiet for all that.
of course it has to be quiet. I'm not sharing all that shit with my mom.
I
You nuts?
share what I want to share. And
Yeah, they
anything
get all
that I
the
share
information.
with my mom or whoever, or even on the show with shit that really ain't that big of a deal to me.
Well,
But
my
like,
parents don't even know I have a show.
First,
And this
the-
shit been running for almost
And
over 3 years.
that
but the
takes care
intricate
of that.
details, nah,
I'm good, because it's gonna end up being an elongated conversation. Why you
Yeah.
curse so much? Why are you guys talking about this? Why are you talking about that?
Oy
The most
vey.
awkward thing is when I come home and I'm like, that's my voice. She's fucking listening to the show.
I don't even think my family would care to listen anyway.
You know,
So,
my family, I
Dad
can say for the most
not
part, are
listening.
very
Mom
supportive.
not telling her
They're
that.
extremely supportive. Me,
Siblings.
my sister, and my little cousin are
Nah,
probably the only three
my
Koreans
mom.
in the house.
I don't think my
Family.
father would listen, but my mom would listen just to be nosy.
Oh,
She'd just listen just to bring up stuff.
I don't want my mother coming anywhere near
My
a
family
freaking
is just
podcast or
supportive,
anything.
and they're very enamored with me, my sister, and
Half the shit we've even
my
talked
little
about.
Yippity
baby.
yikes. My son,
I'd
my
be
son. I can
embarrassed
hear her now,
sometimes when
son.
my uncle would text me or like my cousin. I'd be like,
My mom does this thing where she does like this fake cry when she's disappointed in me. She's like, oh, my son. I was like, I don't need that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Let's keep it very vanilla, very bland.
Very vanilla.
Very bland. Yeah, I was at work.
That's it.
Yeah, 9 to 5 per usual.
All right, carry on. But yeah, you were mentioning earlier about dating, right? So, I got this thing from Twitter where somebody said, grown-ass men have no business dating teenagers. If teen is still in her age, you're too old to be with her after 19, period. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I mean, obviously there's a double standard here because, you know, most, like, we probably know in high school there was, like, the high school chick dating, like, the college dude or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, was that
Wait,
creepy?
did you just point at yourself?
Yeah, I had a crush on somebody who was like 21.
But were you dating him?
Well,
Nah.
Okay.
So you mean like?
That's
we hung
exactly
out,
what he
we hung
said.
out, but I had older men actually like me and try to date me and take me out. I'm talking about I'm 15, 16. These men is like 22, 30 years old, like
Yeah.
really
big creep moves.
pressing me. Yeah,
Creep moves.
weird.
Pedophiles.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
pedophile junior. Yeah, I don't know.
No, pedophiles.
I mean, yes.
Cause you know I'm 15 years old. I'm
Right.
22. I don't care how mature I look, how my body is. Stop it.
But that's weird. But that's weird though, because I mean, not to say that younger girls aim for older. I mean, they do aim for older men in most cases.
Yeah, some
but
of them do.
but keep in mind, like I was talking to somebody that was like in their younger 20s or whatever, and they're like, "Yo, I don't like dating people of my age. Like I like dating older men." So it probably translates to like girls of a younger age was like, "No, I only deal with older men because the men of my age are like dumb or
But
whatever."
I never
That's
understood
different,
that,
though. Because if you're in your 20s and you're saying you're dating older men, I'm going to assume it's because of a maturity thing.
But then
As
teenagers
opposed
are
to,
thinking that young 22
nah, they're
niggas are
lying.
immature.
If they saying that, they're lying. I think they do it for the allure
Yeah.
and for the accessibility to
Just to
certain
say that I'm
things.
meeting somebody that's older and he
Yeah.
can drive, he can pick me up, he can drink, he can give me liquor.
But people equate that to maturity. Well,
That's
obviously, their
that's what
young
they're
minds,
saying.
right? Their young minds don't understand what mature
That's
is.
the problem.
That's
They're
what they're
very
saying.
young-minded.
But it's like, oh, he got a car. Oh, he can buy stuff. Oh, he
Exactly.
mad. He mad, grown and mature.
Right, whole
Yeah,
time
Yeah,
he
that's
just
what
is
they're
dumb.
saying, but the truth is because it's for access to things that they cannot access.
Right, because they're too young.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody older and they're dating somebody in their early
Somebody
to
like
mid 20s.
26,
Yeah, dating
27,
somebody
like
that's
30.
Yeah, that's because of maturity.
I mean, I myself,
In
I found
the
myself dating a
instances
lot of guys
I've
younger than me.
come across.
And we all know maturity is not age specific. So,
Definitely
Yeah,
not.
it's definitely not.
Definitely not.
But
Mhm.
I would assume the numbers are higher.
Mm-hmm.
possibly, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not scoping out the young children. So I
No,
can't.
but-
No, I'm just talking about men in general. You would say the numbers of mature men are higher because of their age, because they've gone through more shit. It's not. I wouldn't I wouldn't think those numbers would align in comparison to females
Like,
or women.
what do you mean,
Like you would find more mature older men in comparison to
more mature older women?
yeah.
Nah.
I wouldn't say
Well,
that.
no, I'm saying you'll find more mature older men in comparison to mature, because you're saying like their maturity is not age specific. Like you
Right.
can mature regardless.
Right.
But I'm saying in general for men, you'll probably find more mature older men in comparison to more mature younger men.
Got you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. By
Yeah.
standards. Yeah. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But
But even when I was, even my age now, I'll be 33. I don't want to date nobody who's 40. So I never understood the allure for women necessarily want to date older men. Even when I was 30, I was like, the oldest I'm dating is 35.
I think that's more of a allure as well.
or a lower security. There's a security in the sense of, I think,
Or
Yeah.
the myth of like, oh, he's been through like his quote unquote whole phase. He's already done all of the shit. He don't have the energy to be running around.
energy.
Little do they know.
Just because you ain't walking fast don't mean you're not holding fast.
Right. Somebody gonna push that with you. Ain't gonna be me, but somebody
Look at the
gonna
check though.
I don't even want the check. I'd rather work hard.
Oh, look at you. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
Man, that's what I've been doing the last 33 years.
Facts. Ain't slowing down now. Ain't slowing down now.
I wish you would. I'm tired.
Get the bag, not the other bag.
Ew, what?
Oh.
Y'all can fill in the blanks.
Yo, what's the next question?
Leave it
What's
to
the
fucking
question?
Vixon.
What is the next
Yikes.
question?
Oh my gosh.
How do you think certain aspects of society should be addressed to kids of a younger age, like sex, language, fashion, life
Like,
or
how
death.
should we introduce them to those things?
Right.
I mean, I was introduced to it in school. Like, I had sex education. I had all those.
Sex
kind of things.
education.
I
Oh,
mean,
they call it family living.
right.
Well,
I mean, my mom wasn't that vocal when it came to me or my sister talking about sex and stuff. So we were readers.
Have you had to talk?
I had to talk with my uncle. My uncle had to talk with me, but my mom didn't. And I had to talk. I had to talk with my sister. My mom never talked to us about
Moms never. No one's giving me the talk except probably like siblings, but you expect it from a parent. Not
Parents
like
are very weird about stuff like that, and I don't know why. But I had sex education in school, and then I was always a reader, so I always found books. I had books, and I read books, and then I asked questions.
I think once they feel like they have that talk with you, then you gotta go out there and venture.
Yeah.
And they don't
but
want
if you don't have the talk,
they don't want it done in their home. On top of that,
but you realize most of the things were the opposite. Like, yo, if my parents didn't tell me shit, then I wanted to do it more. Or if they forbade it, then it's like, no, I want to do this shit more.
I was
like,
completely
you know what I'm
opposite
saying?
because I have friends who's out there just doing dumb shit. So it's like, okay, this is crazy. Don't want to do that. Mom gonna beat me.
Right.
yeah.
My uncles are scary. Definitely not doing that either. And I was always very curious, but I also wanted to know why certain things were the way they were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so like I said, my mom got me books, or I would look on the internet and read things. And during sex education, I would ask my teachers questions, but not in front of the class because it's embarrassing. So I asked them later on. The only thing my mom said to me when I started my period, she was just like, "You got your period now. You could get pregnant, so you better be careful."
Wow.
Literally, that's it.
That's not advice. That's that's a fact of life.
So at that point, I was just like,
"Thanks,
all right.
Captain Obvious."
Right.
So at that point, I was just like, well, guess I need to figure out things on my own. Thank God, you know, I have a brain. So I just started looking up stuff, and I had like a really big book that literally went through like puberty, how the vagina look, how to look at it, how a penis look, how it work, like literally everything step by step.
But I feel like even when we had sex education back then, like there's probably another gender bias there too, or it's like I know what all these parts are, but what does that have to do with me? How do I make that make sense when it comes to actual, like
just like everything else in America? Everything is built on some old shit, and they don't keep up with the times.
Right.
Facts.
So when they release any sort of information, it's not just sex ed; it's any curriculum.
Right.
The shit is always outdated and not relevant.
My nigga, I know where my penis is. Next.
Right.
Like,
then on top of that, I was always in health class. Like from the time I was in junior high school up until college, my education was always based on health and nursing. And, you know, being a doctor. So I was always around that. So I was always curious and learning about it, whereas maybe other people didn't. But I was 19 years old when my uncle had to talk with me.
Right.
Because I was in college at that point. So he was home from the army. He was like, let's have a conversation. And that's how that went. And then my sister got older. I had a conversation with her.
And can we talk about how the DARE program, no shout outs to DARE, how that shit was a complete farce?
Was it?
I barely remember anything from school, to be quite honest.
I don't think I
the
remember
DARE program
class.
that was supposed to prevent kids from doing drugs. Meanwhile, they
guess.
did more drugs. My man's. I don't think that shit worked out.
I mean, I didn't.
Well, I think that's more of a societal thing, as you know, the research has come out that weed is not as troublesome as they try to make it seem back in the day.
I don't think it was the drugs. I was thinking it was the people. The people who were doing the drugs were the problem, not the drugs.
They really tried to make it seem like things were bad, but they didn't take into consideration some of these children's environments that they lived in. Some kids grew up in a household where their parents were literally doing crack and shit like that, or alcoholics, or prostitutes. You know what I'm saying? So you could teach these kids that, but their living environments definitely influence that on top of it. So some kids is going to stay away from it, and some kids might just feel like, this all I know, is all I see, so fuck it, you know?
And
so it's only with so
we had
much.
that shit in elementary
goes back to
school
what I'm
too.
saying about they're not keeping up with the times. All this curriculum is based off of shit when motherfuckers was working in an assembly. Like, like, there's so much shit that has transpired since then.
Word.
Like, you gotta catch up. Like,
yeah,
people are living and doing some real shit.
Now we need DARE programs for like lean and pills and shit.
Yeah, like
little niggas making bombs and shit. Like, it's different. It's real different now.
The world is completely different.
Facts. But hey, what you gonna do? Don't do drugs? Question mark. Ha! That train's already passed.
I'm good. And speaking of that, motherfuckers gotta stop smoking hookah. I hope y'all catch on.
Bro, listen, I was so livid the other day. Yesterday,
I remember I used to give you those talks. No, was that you?
Was it
Possibly.
me?
I don't know.
I think I did hookah for like when it first started for like a year whenever I went out. But after a while, I was like, bitch, first of all, my throat hurt. I feel lightheaded. Like this isn't cute. This isn't cute. And then now I just feel like I'm a lot older. Certain shit I'm just not into now. And I want to go out to restaurants and have a good time. I'm not trying to look for a restaurant with fucking hookah.
Well, hookah's big bad for you. So first and foremost,
if you want to do that, you need to go with your other ratchet friends.
They need to.
You're not gonna do that when you with me.
They need to make a truth commercial about hookah. Fuck this jewel shit. Fuck all the other shit. Make one about hookah and how that shit is just horrendous for you.
Shorty was like, she wanted to go out yesterday. I'm like, alright, cool. But I was tired anyway, so we ended up not going out. But she was like, they gonna have hookah there. I'm like, bitch, I don't even do that. What do you mean?
Why you get so tired?
Because it's like we're hella grown and you not trying to go to a spot because they don't have hookah or bottles. I used to be the bottle queen. I ain't gonna hold you. I can't even drink like that no more. I don't care to
even
drink.
Keeping it a buck. Alcohol is fucking horrible for you too.
Yeah, like
I mean, nothing's good for you that we're. You know what I'm saying? Like
no, but I'm just saying it's like motherfuckers use this shit in surplus. And then they wonder why, like, their body deteriorates at 30 instead of 60.
Good job.
It's because you spent all them fucking nights going out every fucking night after work, smoking hookah, drinking till you couldn't remember shit. Yeah. You're not eating healthy on top of that.
Oh, definitely eating trash.
You're not sleeping. And then you like 25, but you're 25, but you look 35.
A lot of them girls be at work like, Nieema, how old are you? I didn't think
like,
you were old.
Look at all, and this is no shade, but it is shade. But look at some of the women that work in the nightlife lifestyle. You almost never see them during the day.
Oh shit.
Even promoters too. Who the fuck they
promoters don't give a fuck because they're making money. They just sit at home. But the girls that work during the night, you almost never see them during the day because
some of them I see during the day, they look crazy. I was like, ew.
Because that lifestyle requires so much out of them physically, and the body is not meant for that.
It's a different work shift.
It's like
so that's a 3 to 11.
That's still like you don't look like this on Instagram.
Yeah, you see them
out here like this,
you see them all the time. And then I didn't even mention the whole makeup shit because they just fucking glam every night. Their skin barely gets to breathe, and then they look like the fucking moon. Their face look like the moon during the day. That's why you never see them. They always got a hat on, always got shades on, always got a hoodie on. You do not see them during the day because they don't take care of themselves. They just keep.
And I've been trying to educate them about their skin because they've been asking about mine. Like, I don't have the best skin, but my skin is definitely not horrible.
Yes. In comparison to.
Yeah, like
all they do is just.
I don't have acne. I don't have any
smoke their life away. They smoking hookah at the club, and they smoking weed when they get home.
Because they're stressed about the club.
Getting home at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, not really sleeping.
You showing up at my job stinking, dirty with eye boogers. Your lace front glue is sticky and it's cakey up. It's like peeling.
Like, I understand the whole getting your money shit, but it's like at the same time, you still got to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because Aura still works in the club, and I don't even think Aura drink when she worked.
Well, that's called.
Aura is like what?
She's a
30,
professional, you see.
30 something? Well, she's older than us.
I guess it's the younger cats that feel like you got to be a part of the life to be of the life, but you don't have to.
You really don't.
Yeah,
you really don't. You gotta be better with your finesse game.
Because Aura's like 30 something, and she looked better than all of her contemporaries.
And they're more than likely younger than her.
Yeah, always.
Well,
they be looking hella raggedy. I ain't gonna hold you.
I'm telling you, you never see them during the day. The only time they're active on social media is when at night, and they're working.
And they post some take me back videos.
Take me back where?
Or they're in the house. You never see them do a regular everyday thing.
They need to do laundry at some point.
You know what?
No, the club give them the outfits, I think.
No, they buy it.
Yikes.
But it still needs to get washed.
And they don't even like figure out how like they're being exploited in terms of like they do all the marketing for the club and then the club generates all the profit from it.
Takes the skin from the top.
Yep.
Whatever.
How it goes.
Oh well. God bless each and every one of them.
Wow.
But carrying on.
No, I just want better for people. Like,
I mean,
just in general.
But if they don't want better for themselves, then
but at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. So if any of them are listening, then it's like, oh, I didn't even realize this shit. So hopefully they move better for it.
Just like children, they know what they know, which ties back into our conversation. Look at that.
Oh my God. Like, what aspects of adulthood do you instill in children?
I think it's all. I don't think there's a straight answer for that, because it's all dependent on the child. Because some children could take on information completely different than another
Like,
child.
for example, like in high school, I really wish we had some level of responsibility when it came to like money and bills and responsibilities like that.
That part,
related
and
to
also
adulthood.
there's
Like,
a
we
lot
didn't
of
have that.
there's a lot of parents that also need to be held accountable for that shit too, because they're quick to yell at you and say, "Oh, you should be doing this, that, and the
Right.
third." But at the same time, not only did they educate themselves on how to do it, they're not sharing that knowledge to the next lineage.
But I feel like that lack of
Because my parents love to tell me, "Oh, you should be saving money," but they never told me how
How
to
to save the money?
right, because guess what? They weren't taught how to save the money. They had to
Yeah,
figure
but
it out.
at the same time, not that it's their fault, but then it is also their fault because they didn't educate themselves to learn.
How to
And
tell us that?
it's
You
just-
can't tell me to do something you don't know how to do
You
it.
just
Now
gotta
I'm
break the
asking you to
generational
take-
curse in that case. It's a generational curse. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure, I don't really know too much about my father's father, but I'm pretty sure his teaching methods were not that great. Because
course.
my father doesn't know how to teach. He knows how to say things, but he's not a teacher. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's kind of like he teaches through doing, and he just expects you to kind of see what he's
Pick it
doing
up.
and pick it up. And it's like, that's not how
That's
I
not
learn.
how, right?
Probably when I was younger, like I used to see him like fix a car or some shit. Or like he's my dad. I'm looking up to him. I'm of course I'm gonna follow
Watch
him around and see what he's doing.
Yeah.
But fast forward, that doesn't mean all that information like retained itself. And I was like, because I was 5 and I saw my dad in a car means I know everything about cars. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's how parents are teaching you, and on top of that, it's breaking that cycle of my parents didn't necessarily show me the way I should have been taught, like in school, because in school you're being taught. You're not just I'm gonna write some numbers on the board, y'all kids figure it out. You know what I mean? So I think we have to break that curse, especially when it comes to the next generation of like instilling that information directly instead of it being like, just copy what you see me do and do the same shit.
I think our generation is actually doing the proper job, because from the friends that I have that have children, and from what I see from like social media and things of that nature, I feel like they're doing the proper job of like really crafting the proper type of human beings that's gonna carry
Actually
on.
make a difference.
Yeah, that's gonna
And
make a
be good
difference.
people.
And even now, you hear more stories every so often of like, oh, this 12-year-old boy just got accepted to Harvard and things of that nature. So those, even though I in the past I've had talk shit about how the next generation is kind of a dub, but there are
Some
You in
gems.
there.
there are a few in there. But
Definitely.
I think our generation that's having kids right now, that's probably on the cusp of, that are probably still in elementary school, I think they will probably be way better than we ever have been.
Because the thing is, I think we're more equipped to understand the complexities of like life in society now than our parents did. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
we've been able to, thankfully with the help of technology, we've been able to note the fault in black families, or just families of color in general, their holes, and now we're trying to repair that for the next generation.
Listen, breaking those generational curses.
Yeah.
And knowing that, all right, now that we are in a better space to actually learn and grow from kids to now we can instill that on our kids.
Because we've been forced to adapt, unfortunately, and our
Yeah,
parents
They
they haven't adapted. Some of them have in certain facets of like technology, but they haven't adapted to society. They kind of just like
There was no need for them to. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, my dad's not great with technology, but he had to somewhat be forced to because it's like, obviously, times around him are changing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If they didn't change, he would have just been the same way. You know what I'm saying? Like, now he's like texting, even though all caps, but he's texting now. You know, that would have not been a thing years ago. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of communicating like that. You know what I mean? So I think people of that generation are adapting to technology because they are being forced to, and we're adapting because it's like, all right, we actually want to. There's some actual,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like, we
Just
want
how
to
we
because we understand this is the times that we live in.
Yeah, but
You know
then
what I
at the same time, I think what humans need to realize in general is like you don't stop learning. Like just because society or the generation that you're born in, things are set in a certain way, you should just never stop learning. Like I would feel really, because I've always felt bad of like the older people that come in and they just like, oh, I can't figure this out. I don't know how this works. And it's like, I mean, not to the extreme of like we all have 24 hours. We all have the same 24 hours in a day, but it's like the world doesn't wait for you. Like the world is gonna keep pushing with or without you.
Yeah.
So if you want to be able to function, you should at least make an effort. And a lot of people in our parents' generation just don't make the fucking effort.
They don't.
It's like,
Really
oh,
don't.
you're my child. Do this for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
It's like, okay, God forbid I'm not here. Then what happened?
I mean, it's wild because you're absolutely right about that. But then I think about it. I mean, I give them a slight benefit of the doubt, not completely, because at the end of the day, yes, you should still be willing. Like my mom's and my stepmom, when she was alive, like they were very adaptable to technology. Like, and then my stepmom used to work in like an office, so like in the sense of technology, she had to get used to like computers and typing and printing and all that stuff. So for her, that was the case. My dad, he worked postal service, so I mean, he wasn't around like technology enough to say like he had to learn certain things. So there's a disparity there. Like I think certain people are like your parents now could use a smartphone with ease, but back in the day, like that was never something that they felt like they had to adapt to. You know what I'm saying? Now fast forward to the kids now, like they're born with freaking iPhones in their hands, like they could adapt to shit, and their sense of learning is rapid because everything is real quick, and they literally have it at the palm of their hands. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying, like we all have the same brain. Like the brain still functions.
We have the opportunity.
We have the opportunity.
Yeah,
Some people just don't take
lazy.
that willingness.
Yeah,
they don't just take that willingness. So while your father was working in the postal service, he still operates a TV. There's news that discusses all those different things. So it's like, oh, maybe I should take the time out to at least figure this out, just in case, because you never know. Because
funny enough, he had to be taught.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he had to be taught certain things in the sense of like paying his bills online. You know what I'm saying? That's something he had to be taught. He didn't just like, oh, computer, let me figure this out. You know what I'm saying? There's certain things that he still doesn't know how to do that he asks like his kids for, but there's other things that he had to be shown to be like, all right, I can handle this. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's the age thing too.
That's the age thing too. Yeah.
My mom is fairly young.
Yeah.
So it was never really an issue.
And then tie that back into the whole school thing that we was talking earlier. There used to be a whole bunch of programs, after school programs, for like teaching like everyday things. All them shits is eliminated now. I remember when they used to have those little stuff in the like newspapers, like, oh, South Shore High School is hosting this class for such and such, and you could just go attend. They don't have any of them shits anymore. I mean, yes, the internet is readily available, but for some people, you need that hands-on
stuff.
To like somebody to demonstrate to you, like, this is how you do this, this is how you do that, and it would be beneficial for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, like, God
forbid there's an emergency, like, yo, what the fuck are you gonna do?
It's like, why are you tapping the home button 5 times? Man, that's not helping you. You know what I'm saying?
Like, I know for my mother, like, I don't know if this is too forward, but like, if her and my dad are having like a little disagreement, and she don't feel like bothering him to like pick her up from somewhere, she don't even know how to call an Uber. She will ask my cousin to call an Uber for her.
Right.
And mind you, Uber is like what, 4 total steps? Like, and God forbid my cousin's not available. So then you either forced to take mass transit under what conditions, or gotta figure it out. So it's like something that's like they should have. Anybody should at least know some little basics for like, God forbid, for some sort of emergency, you're able to do this.
Yeah. But technology these days is not necessarily age friendly. You know what I mean?
Of course not. But at the same time, people in our parents' generation have this stigma. It's usually a black thing of like, you're my child, you're supposed to do this for me.
1000%.
And that stigma just needs to go away. It's like the same way I've had to learn and adapt to the world that I live in is the same way you got to learn to adapt to the world that we're in now. You're still here.
Right.
Like, what happened if I move out of the state? Then what? You would call me from California, like, yo, how I troubleshoot this?
Right.
They probably would though.
Well, 3-hour time difference.
Well, I told y'all
I'm sleep.
Now I'm sleep.
Facts. Now you're mad.
Now you on do not disturb.
Now it's 50 calls missed because you didn't realize the difference. I told y'all, my pops wanted me to book him a flight so we could pop into my mom's city. Like,
fam, people been booking flights for how many years now? When the airplane was invented? When was the first airplane? What was the brothers?
You can't use your kids to do some hot boy shit. That's not fair.
Like, come on, man.
That's not fair.
Fuck it, it's my son. You gonna help his daddy.
You know the vibes? Yikes. Oh no.
You took a page out of
or when they do, it'd be like stupid petty. It'd be like stupid shit like that. It's like if you were to ask for my help, don't ask me for some nonsense.
Right.
So the other
To do
day,
some dumb
my mom
Yeah,
asked me
like
to take a picture of her on her phone. I was
Steven,
getting
can you show me
heated.
how to block? Because this is woman.
I'm
I
trying
was
to think what my mom
if
did
you
that
don't
had me
reverse
tight.
the fucking phone
Can you imagine your
and
parents
take a
blocking
picture in the
somebody?
mirror.
Oh, you know what
Stop
got me
asking
tight?
me.
What got me tight? I think it was around Christmas. I had went to the house, and then my mom came out of nowhere and was like, "Oh, can you order like this case of wine for me from Macy's? They have like this deal online." I'm like, "Yo, you don't even fucking drink wine like that." I bought wine for like birthdays or holidays or whatever.
It's so
Oh,
sad.
we don't. Why did you waste your money on that? We don't even drink
Waste
that.
your money.
And I'm like, yo, why are you bothering me? Not bothering me, but you
Right.
went out of your way to ask me to order you a 24 case of wine that you don't really need.
Right.
Tell mom to give me like 3 of them.
What did she? Oh, because the way it was advertised, it made it seem like it was like, how many ounces they come in? Like a 16? No, not 16. I forget how many ounces they come in.
Was it the
the
little
bottle
ones or the
wine?
big ones?
The big one.
Like the standard big ones. It looked like it was a standard big one,
Like
but when it
24 ounces.
actually
Like
came,
24.
but when it came to the
24.
house, it was like mad small, so she was tight.
Oh, no.
So then she calling me.
Fucking BBQ drink.
She's calling you because you're
So
customer
she's
support.
calling me. She's calling me to like, oh, I can't believe they would do something like this, and this is false advertisement.
Right.
So
Did
she,
you
I'm like,
read it?
Steven, can you call them and complain?
I didn't read. I wasn't paying attention. I was
No,
like,
no.
this is what you want to do with your money? Like,
Hey.
this is what you would do with your Christmas bonus?
It's her money.
Wanda, I'm not going to drink to death.
Yeah, and it's like, it was like, who am I to tell you how to spend your money?
If
This is
she-
what you want to do your home.
If she was
spend
to
your
flex
home
to her
money
friends
on?
that come over, that's on
That's
her.
whatever.
So they could not drink it though.
So then
They
I
don't even
finally
drink
called
it.
me.
Hey, some
I
people
called
buy
me.
shit and they don't use it. So,
So I called Macy's. Oh, this is like a holiday special.
called
So we don't
Macy's.
do like returns on it. So we'll give you a refund, but you might have to keep it. So I'm like, yo, you just wasting my time. Wasting my time.
Word. Oh, old people.
God bless them.
Yeah, well, kids gonna be right, I guess.
Well, we shall
I
see.
mean, better now than back then. Yeah.
We shall see.
Yippee-yikes.
It's a tough space because I feel like the one thing that doesn't get discussed enough is that's probably the biggest class that they should have for kids now is how to maneuver and emotionally accept or emotionally deal with social media, because a lot of the times those suicides that you do hear is because they're being bullied, and it's not necessarily from a physical standpoint. It could be from social media. Like, as much as you could block individuals, it's like, motherfucker, kids are ruthless. We were all children at one point. We all said some foul shit to somebody.
Bullying back then was not
so
the
it's
same,
like motherfuckers will blatantly be on your posts saying wild shit constantly over, and now you have like online image editors, so they could easily steal.
Yep.
Yeah, like people be asking me all the time, like, how do we protect your images? Like, protect. Motherfucker, you know how many programs I could use?
Hey,
There's so many third-party like, even if your shit is private on Instagram, because I do graphic design, I do mad shit. There's so many programs I use to steal, well, not steal, but take private images from people to manipulate for whatever reason I need to manipulate it from. Because, and sometimes I don't feel like texting somebody about, yo, I told you to send these pictures. Like, all right, I'll just take it from your Instagram real quick.
How to protect your images. Step 1, don't post them. Step 2, repeat step 1. Like, that's the
Step
only
3,
way.
throw your phone away.
Facts.
Like, yeah, so you have kids that are finding ways, and through YouTube, they're finding alternate methods to teach themselves
how to do certain shit.
So it's like, there needs to be classes of like, how do you take in social media? What do you want to post? How do you, what kind of people do you allow to follow you and things of that nature?
Like social media etiquette in a sense.
Social media etiquette, and then emotionally how to accept when somebody says something negative. We have adults that don't know how to deal with negative comments, let alone a child.
Right. Yippity and yikes.
Because humans are the only species that deal with the same mistake a million times. So
yeah, that's probably
that one comment that you probably swiped and deleted already, you're just never gonna forget, because that shit is embedded in you for whatever they could have possibly said.
Especially if people are validating it or whatnot. Real quick, real last question, and then So do you think like a child's quote unquote innocence exists anymore? Like the term or the phrase of like a child's innocence, is that still a thing?
I think it's a thing. I think it's all about how you help that child develop and what you instill in them. I think we all have a little bit of innocence in us.
Are you innocent, Nieema?
I am. I have a little bit childlike innocence still in me. I still hold on to that tightly.
Shouts
Keeps
to
me
Disney
young,
Plus.
keeps me happy, helps me deal with a lot of shit other people probably couldn't deal with if they lived my life or was in my kind of situation.
Okay.
I think kids are just. I like when kids are young, before they hit the age of 10, because they're extremely honest.
Not even 10.
About everything, and I just enjoy being around them. It's something about watching the kids just play and just
the purity,
not really know about things. Like I enjoy that, and I wish
try to figure it out like us.
Yeah, and I wish they can hold on to that just a little bit longer before they're. Unfortunately, a lot of times children are put into situations that they don't need to be put in, based on their parents' living situations and mental health in itself.
Sometimes, and even outside of like you can have good parents like trying to instill.
Yeah, but like once
out,
you go out there, babysitters, schools,
right?
It's
now you're exposed to all types of shit.
Yeah,
and not everyone has the same intentions for your child in the sense of like maintain that quote unquote innocence or that purity.
And the best way to do that is to make sure your child understands. Once they get to a certain age, under 5, they can't really express themselves very well. But just always having that forum to where your kids feel comfortable enough coming to you and asking you questions, and you not being like, "Why are you asking me that for? Stay in the child's place." People used to love to say that. Just being more open with them and teaching them. A lot can go a long way when you just have a conversation with a kid. Kids are very impressionable, and the kids these days are really freaking smart. They are
smart.
Very smart.
Smarter than most people take credit for. Yeah, give them credit for.
Extremely intelligent. Yeah. I think kids still have it. It's all about how we try to
nurture it.
Yeah.
I would agree. And one thing I do want to add, I feel like I don't know what the numbers are, but I do hear more instances of parents homeschooling their children.
I always said I want to homeschool my kids. People think I'm a weirdo.
And I think that's probably the best. That's probably the best method in terms of like protecting your child's innocence.
Right.
And with them being part of like, certain programs like swimming or chess or certain things that's out there, then they'll be able to get to experience other children and see how other families operate, or just see the dynamics when it comes to race or sex and things of that general in that spectrum of things. But it's really tough to like have that child remain innocent, because you have to give them a phone. The kind of world that we live in nowadays is like
you can't like shelter them forever.
Yeah, I know that was a big thing around 9/11, was like everybody giving their kids phones, and schools were kind of hesitant about that, but it was like the kind of world that we live in now is like anything can happen. So with that being said, it's like no matter how much you could try to like phone proof or child proof a phone, like there's ways to
kids
bypass
kids are smarter now than they used to be.
Yeah.
Code.
Yeah.
Reset phone, take out battery, like what? However you do it, I don't know. But it's just like kids are much more smarter now.
And then the kids that's gonna be around them, not everybody's gonna
be a good influence.
Gonna be a good influence. And sometimes you need that bad influence just to be aware of like, okay, this is what I shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Yeah. And then and in that case, when they're exposed to both sides of it, because you can only shelter your kid for so long, they're gonna get exposed to the outside world at some point. You know what I'm saying? And you think as they get older, even if they're young, they should determine, all right, what's appropriate for them or what's right for them and what's not right. They have to learn that at some point. You can't just protect them at a certain time and then it's like, all right, you're 17, 18, now you could kind of like have access to these things. Yeah. They have to learn that balance or that level of right and wrong for themselves.
And just have confidence in the kind of parent that you have been, and hopefully that you believe that you had the proper impact. Because my mom would always, I remember she used to be like, oh, I would just assume like all your friends were like good kids and whatnot. I'm like,
good?
Like I know dudes that was like in the streets.
Wild child.
Like, would they ever do certain shit around me? No. But I was aware of the kind of lifestyle that they live. Right. And or even if they weren't, moving in the streets, the type of people that they hung out with was probably doing so. So I wouldn't. Are they a bad person? No. But are they a product of their environment? Yes. So by me being aware of such, it's like, okay, I'm cool with you. We could play ball or whatnot. But I know when y'all everybody's about to go home. Like I ain't coming through to your crib. Like I know there's probably gonna be some shit that's going down that I shouldn't be around.
I'm good.
And vice versa. So parents should just have confidence in how they raise their children as well.
Yeah, and kids these days, I think they know what a good influence or bad influence is. It's like they're either about it or they're not, but either way, you have to give them that freedom to make those choices for themselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
So, yeah, even though we all don't have kids, at some point in time we'll be exposed to one, so just gotta do the right thing.
Is that it? That's all we got? That's all we got for them?
All right, well, so those out there with kids, just be careful.
I think they're doing a great job.
Yeah. Y'all doing good. Y'all can do better.
They're doing better than me.
I mean, we don't have kids, so back to that.
Because I don't know.
We were a kid once, and
Word.
just because we don't have kids, it doesn't take away from the fact that we see some shit that's right and some shit that's not right.
Yeah, right and wrong is not.
Yeah.
Regardless of right and wrong.
Regardless if I have kids or not. A lot of y'all be wilding out here.
So definitely shout outs to the listeners with kids, and just, I know, like, for example, there's a homegirl of mine, not putting a business out there, but, like, she feels like, oh, am I a good mom? It's like, no, you are a good mom. Like, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You do it every day.
You're figuring it out just like everybody else.
Literally.
So.
You're good.
Yeah.
You're good, sis.
For my
and there's no
there,
general form of good. Your good of what it is that you're doing for your child is exactly what it needs to be.
Exactly.
Your kids are alive, you're a good parent.
That's it.
Good job.
They're not eating, Ajax.
Gold star.
Ajax? So, that's our show. You can tune in every week. We're on all major streaming platforms. Shout out to Bianca as always.
Gang.
And check us out on YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, or Google Podcasts now.
Yes.
Spotify. And just hit us up.
Yeah, talk to us, yo.
Speak.
Follow me on Instagram.
Yes, follow Nieema on Instagram.
That was just very specific. Like, follow me on Instagram.
Follow Nieema and all of us on Instagram. Follow the Aside Podcast page. And, man, we just give me what the people need.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
That's all we got.
Sleepy.
Nothing
Okay,
else?
bye, guys.
Yeah, I need to go home. I gotta cook.
All right,
Bye.